Next, let's look at the Bodhisattva practices. What does Bodhisattva practices teach us? It covers preliminaries, main practice, and conclusion. The 7 preliminary teachings are complete. For main practice include lesser, middle, and greater scope paths. Today, we'll discuss the middle path, not craving 3 realms, seeking liberation. The verse states thus, 3 realms pleasure like dewdrops on grass tips, momentary and impermanent. Knowing the unchanging Dharma, seeking liberation is the Bodhisattva's practice. That is to say, the 3 realms, be it the desire, form, and formless realms, all contaminated pleasures of 3 realms. Speaking of the 3 realms, upper heaven realm, lower Naga realm, middle human realm, there's also this classification, 3 existences or 3 realms. Above is heaven realm. Below is Naga world. Right in the middle is the familiar human world we know. Sometimes we speak of a desire, form, formless realms. This is one way of speaking. Also heaven, human, and Naga realms. In these 3 realms or existences, all contaminated pleasures are like dewdrops on grass tips, momentarily destructible phenomena. Indeed, so in our human world, whether fame or wealth, all these pleasures and prosperity are like dewdrops on grass tips. When sunlight shines upon them, they vanish immediately. So we should never be attached to them. We should know that what never changes, which is the eternal and stable essence, the unsurpassed fruition, which is liberated from all twofold obscurations, is perfect Buddhahood. Perfect Buddhahood is truly eternal. With renunciation, seeking Buddhahood, practicing Mahayana with this supreme motivation. This is how all bodhisattvas generate the mind seeking liberation, usually in lamp of the path to enlightenment and the stages of the path, the 3 scope path. It seems there's a slight difference here. In some texts, middle scope is achieving peace and liberation for oneself. And as for the great scope, aspires to achieve supreme Buddhahood, liberating all beings. But here, in this very place, one also attains Buddhahood, as you can see. And it's also the Mahayana path. When explaining in the commentary here, is explained this way. The 400 verses also states, who doesn't tire of 3 existences, how can they revere nirvana? If one doesn't detest 3 existences, how can they achieve nirvana and liberation? Entering the Bodhisattva's way says, without suffering, no renunciation. Actually, suffering in life is very important. If there's suffering, the realization is profound. Another method of awakening, without suffering, there's no renunciation. Always dwelling in pleasure, then no renunciation. From this we see, if we don't generate understanding that 3 existences are suffering and develop aversion and wish to abandon them, then of course it's impossible to develop respect for liberation and suffering. Without experiencing suffering ourselves, we cannot have a mind seeking liberation. Therefore, don't cling to pleasant realm happiness. With attachment, we cannot escape 3 existences. Buddhist sutras also teach those attached to samsara perpetually wander, always clinging to samsara, finding human world pleasant. They forever wander in samsara. Therefore, to generate renunciation, seeking liberation, we must recognize samsara's faults. And the sequential process of samsaric wandering, first, contemplate the truth of suffering, including general and specific faults. General faults, samsara's faults are countless, not just general and specific ones. Among samsara's faults, uncertainty of friends and enemies, insatiable greed, repeated death, birth, status changes, helpless solitude. These 6 faults should be clear in samsara. Today's relative becomes tomorrow's enemy. In samsara, greed is insatiable, countless deaths, countless rebirths, countless status changes, many faults, plus what we often discuss: birth, aging, sickness, death, unfulfilled desires, separation from loved ones, 8 types of suffering, and 3 root sufferings: suffering of suffering, suffering of change, suffering of conditioning. Specific sufferings are, as previously explained, not only the 3 lower realms, 3 higher realms also have suffering nature because they have conditioning suffering. Buddhist sutras say samsara is like needle's tip. Maitreya Bodhisattva also said, as impure rooms have no fragrance, 5 paths have no happiness. Words of my perfect teacher also quotes this. The 400 verses states, wise ones fear good rebirths equally as hell. The wise fear heaven and human realms, like hell realms, knowing samsara has no true happiness. Wherever we go, whatever supreme pleasure we obtain, it's contaminated. They, for the 3 existences, rarely know fear. Furthermore, merely like the lesser scope path, contemplating lower realms faults isn't enough. We must clearly recognize 3 existences are like a house ablaze, a source of suffering. Lesser path practitioners fear only lower realms. Higher realm rebirth is acceptable. They think this way, but to truly understand Mahayana, to understand true liberation, any of the 3 realms is like a house engulfed in raging flames. Just like now, some houses surrounded by fierce fire are truly frightening. Actually, every single realm within the vast expanse of the 3 realms is in fact just like this. Truly it is. Thereby achieve nirvana. Chapter on causation states, knowing such faults quickly attain nirvana. Contemplate the origination truth of samsaric wandering. All 3 existences suffering arises from the root of karma. And this karma arises from the root of afflictions. These afflictions ultimately have their root in self-grasping. With self-grasping, afflictions arise. With afflictions, we create karma through greed, hatred, delusion. With karma include neutral, virtuous, and non-virtuous. We wander between higher and low realms. If we eliminate self-grasping, we can realize the cessation truth or achieve liberation. So-called liberation means freedom from karmic and afflictive bondage. The correct path to liberation is nothing but the 3 trainings practice. What are the 3 trainings? Among them, what truly cuts the root of 3 existences, self-grasping, is wisdom, realizing selflessness, as in valid cognition. To truly cut samsara, one must realize emptiness. Without realizing emptiness or selflessness, samsara cannot be cut. Compassion cannot cut it. Renunciation cannot cut it. So ultimately, this selfless wisdom, we fundamentally know the self doesn't exist. It's just beings confused, grasping. This point must be clarified. Without it, it's very difficult to be liberated from samsara. This wisdom depends on samadhi. Of course, it cannot arise without cause. It must be cultivated. So I think many of you, actually, all of you here, indeed, should know clearly that many distracting factors are meaningless except for some essential service personnel. Generally, frequently using phones, often speaking nonsense. This really wastes human life. In our lifetime, we should accumulate this time endless words and activities of greed, hatred, delusion. Try to cut them off. It might be better I myself will basically, regarding this kind of tranquility and spiritual practice, I want to put more time on this aspect. Try to eliminate all kinds of causes of distraction and make effort on turning the mind toward the realm of spiritual practice. Of course, this requires many conditions. Gathering these conditions all at once has certain difficulties. I think each Dharma friend is the same. I mentioned before, for our practice community here, sometimes we practice and meditate together, sometimes practice individually, and try to eliminate daily external distractions as much as possible. If service personnel cannot, you can also spare 1 or 2 hours in a day. 1 or 2 hours should be manageable. So the selfless wisdom we just discussed requires practice and samadhi. Without samadhi, selfless wisdom arises either innately or through diligent effort. Our innate selfless wisdom, many probably don't have, otherwise we'd be enlightened already. In that case, through our diligent effort, we must practice and contemplate. Ethical discipline is the root of all virtues, including samadhi. Therefore, ethical discipline is of paramount importance. Of course, without ethical discipline for samadhi, the mind cannot focus on Dharma. As letter to a friend states, to avoid rebirth, be diligent. Also says, for no rebirth, be diligent. Now, we haven't been born in the 8 unfavorable states and have obtained precious human birth. At this time, we must diligently study the correct path which cuts rebirth, achieves no rebirth, attains liberation. Okay, that's all for today.
Jirgana jirano chupai, chupun zolen droadraja. Bandangara badma asadarda. Bandangara badma asadarda. Bandangara badma asadarda.